Tuesday, we are backing up from changes that are made from Monday. Wednesday, we are backing up changes that have been made since Tuesday. Thursday, we are backing up changes that have been made since Wednesday. Friday, we are backing up changes that have been made since Thursday. No, yeah, Friday we are backing up changes since Thursday. Saturday we are backing up changes since Friday. So each of these backups has unique changes. So my backups on my differential backups on Monday has changes made since Sunday. My differential backups on Tuesday have blocks that have been made, block changes since Monday. So every day has just a unique set of backups. So it means if I come on Wednesday, the changes that I see on Wednesday are different from the changes that I saw on Tuesday and are different from those that I will see on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So if I had to do a recovery, I'll need all these pieces because they all have unique changes in there. So I'll need all these pieces, including my level zero and my archive logs as well. So you need more stuff to do your recovery. Meanwhile, for your level zero, because every time you're backing up everything from Sunday, so it means your cumulative, you're backing up every change that has been made since Sunday when you did your last level zero. So it means all my changes on Saturday will include all changes for these other days. Because remember, every time we are backing up everything that has changed since this day. So on Saturday, I have everything that I've changed since my level zero on Sunday. But for differential, I only have things that have changed from the previous day. So this is great for people who have issues with space because if you're backing up all changes each time, you're taking up more space, which is why the cumulative is more expensive when it comes to resources. I don't know how else I can explain this, but I recommend that you guys go over Alapati. So Rick, Alapati is going to do a lot of repetition, but I swear to you guys, I never had any problem understanding incremental backups. And that's not because I'm smarter than anyone, we're all the same. But that's just because I went over the information in Alapati numerous times. So Alapati does a great job with repetition, which is why I always recommend that book. So go to Alapati. If you read your backup in there, Alapati will keep repeating, repeating, and repeating, and then it will make more sense to you as you do it over and over. So
That
just
really helps break it down and make a lot of sense.
or you use that, right?
Yeah, what you just did, that really helped. My only question is, can you say the difference between a full backup and a level zero? Well, can you say the difference to that one? Because I'm still, that's the only thing I'm having trouble with that's messing me up. But I do understand the difference between differential and cumulative completely now. I get it. And why it saves you space to use cumulative and stuff like that. But could you explain that one more time, the level zero and the full backup? Because you're saying the level zero is a full backup, but then you're saying full backup. That's just
Right.
messing with me.
So why I put it here in parentheses full backup is for you guys to understand that this backup is going to back up everything, just like a full backup. Remember, the full backup backs up every change, everything in your database, right? All blocks. The full backup backs up all blocks in your database. It doesn't back up change blocks, it backs up everything. So your level zero is the same like that. It backs up every block in your database. But the difference with your level zero and your full backup is that, so because you have regular full backups that you do that are not incremental, so the difference between this level zero and the full backup is that you can use your level zero for your incremental strategy, but you cannot use your full backup, your regular full backup for an incremental strategy. So if I wanted to do a level one incremental backup, I will need my level zero backup. But if I wanted to do a regular backup, I don't a regular full backup, I don't need I can't if I had a regular full backup, I can't turn around and use that as my base for my incrementer. Because this level zero right here is a base. It's like the base for your incremental. So every backup you're doing for level 1 is based on this level 0 here. So everything is going to be based on changes at level 0. So
We tried to do it in.
so there's a guy who actually asked this in an interview, and so I told him, and he was like, for all the people that I interviewed, you're the only one who knows the difference between a level 0 and a full backup. And that was funny because I'm like, man, we do that thing at Jelani all the time. I'm surprised he's saying that for everybody that he interviewed, I'm the only one who understood the difference. And we do it here in class, and it's the same thing. The only thing I said to the guy, and trust me, that guy was so happy. The entire team was smiling. Everybody was like, wow, wow. I'm like, really, this small thing? We do it in class all the time, and they are so excited. So all I told them that the difference between my level 0 backup and my full backup is that they both back up all blocks in the database, but then I cannot use my full backup for my increment as a base for my incremental strategy. That's all I told them, and the guy was like, they were all happy, the entire team. And but it's this simple. So Vincent?
Yeah, I'm here. I understand.
So if I decided, so if on Sunday I did the regular full backup, I said backup database, right? Backup database. There's no way I can on Monday I can come and say I want to do a level 1, and that level 1 is going to use the backup database that I did on Sunday as a base for the incremental, because your incremental always has
level 1 backs up changes only, right?
Remember
level 1 changes only from level 0 backup.
Yes, it's your level 1 backups will always have to be based on that level 0. So when you say backup database level 0, or whatever you put for that command, Oracle understands that level 0, you're saying that this is going to be the base for your incremental backups when Oracle sees that level 0 in there. But to back up a regular database, you can just say backup database. Oracle will not understand that you're trying to use an incremental strategy.
You saying that right there just cleared everything up for me. Because I was about to ask you that, because like, all right, so backup database, that's a full database backup. And then now when you have to, it's an actual command for you put backup database level 0.
Okay, so this is it right here. Do you see this? Backup incremental level 0 database.
Oh, I get it completely now. Thank you. I get it now.
You're welcome.
Can I say something, Saveria?
Yes, Christina.
Yesterday we tried to set up a backup. I looked to see if Christian had a backup, which he already did. It was a full backup, and we tried to set up a level 1 because he had one, and we got an error. We couldn't do it because we didn't set up the strategy. So yeah, exactly what you're saying. We're not able to just have a full backup already and then do and then set up a level 1 without having it a part of the strategy.
Yeah. So your full backup will always have to, your level 0 backup that you use for your base will always have to specify that it's a level 0 backup. So I'm glad you guys practiced that and you ran into that error, so it makes more sense to you guys now. But if I had to back up a regular full backup, I'll just do a backup database, and that does a full backup of my database. And this is a keyword right here, level 0. Specifying it's an incremental backup, and I'm also specifying it's a level 0. These are all jobs. Most companies have backup jobs that run.
Is that Army of Recipes or Alapati you looking at?
This is Alapati. This is Alapati, not Arma recipe.
Okay. I just wanted to know what page that I'm gonna go to that exact page so I can read up on it.
Okay. So under chapter 15, backing up databases. And I believe we went over obsolete backups, to report obsolete, to see the obsolete backups, and you can delete obsolete backups. And your obsolete backup is going to be based on your retention policy. Whatever you set for your retention policy, like you all remember, retention policy always specifies how long something will live in your database or wherever you store your information. If you say that you want your database retention policy to be, for example, 2 days, it means after backups of 2 days, the old ones will become obsolete. There are so many different types of retention policies. I would like you, because we're almost at 9 p.m. It's a whole different topic. If you do a show all command, you see a parameter that's for retention policies for your archive logs and your backups. You guys can check that when you go back home. Even though most people will not ask you about the retention policy or how your backups become obsolete, but your backups will become obsolete based on the retention.
Real quick scenario. So if I was asked that question in an interview, what's the difference between a full database backup and the other one? Would it be I can answer like saying, well, high level, the biggest difference is you can't use incremental strategy with a full database backup. Would that be a correct answer to say it like that?
Yeah, you shouldn't say the biggest difference because that's the only difference.
Well, okay, yeah, thank you. See, that's why I asked. So now I know how to say it. All right. So the difference is, high level difference is, you can't use strategy with your full database backup.
And so they both back up all blocks in the database, but the main difference is that you cannot use your irregular full backup for your incremental strategy.
Cool. So our light bulbs, I'm getting it.
So there's some retention policies here. So this one is one. So you're saying that you always want just one redundancy copy. So every time you have a particular backup, if the backup is done the next day, by default, if you're using this policy, it means, for example, if I did a backup today and I have a redundancy, an extra copy from yesterday, when I do another backup tomorrow, automatically the one of Monday becomes obsolete and I only have the one of today and the one I will do tomorrow. I don't know how to explain this, but you guys should read it in Alapati. And we have another retention policy.
All right, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it common to find a lot of people who back up to tape, whereby they would do maybe even using the Oracle Secure backup to back up to the tape, where you have to maybe reference a media? I know it's probably going a little deeper, but is that something to consider? And if you wanted to talk about the redundancy, how is it best to state having them on separate disks to avoid that single point of failure?
So for most organizations, right, they don't use tape is obsolete. Most companies don't really use tapes again because tape is not really safe. So there are different disks backups that they will use. And I don't want to mention anything about the different disks because I did mention that once from what I saw when I worked at the Navy, and everyone changed their script. And now people got asked questions about that particular disk type. and they run into real issues. So, but most places do use digs because it's safer than tape, and most organizations. So, I've worked only with government agencies. So, and for all those agencies, I've never seen any of them use tape. It's always been digs.
Okay.
And we always maintain an offsite backup. All organizations have an offsite backup. So when you have an offsite backup with a reliable vendor, it's great, because in that case, I have my data center with my servers and everything, and we have our data in there, right? I have copies of my backups that go into those digs. And then we have a vendor that we use. So there are vendors who only do backups. They only store backups to companies. So we send a backup, a copy of a backup to that vendor, and you guys pay them money to store your information. So that if something happens, if God forbid my data center crashes, maybe there's a tornado or something and everything crashes, we can always go back to our vendor. A vendor will have all our backups, because we have an extra copy of all our backups stored with that vendor. And for those who use DataGuard, they are fine as well, because you could have your standby here in Maryland, and you can have your primary in Maryland, and you have your standby somewhere in California or China or wherever in the world. So it all depends, but using tape is not common right now, because tape comes with a lot of disadvantages.
Okay, thank you very much.
That was common back in the days when digs was really expensive.
So if asked about in an interview, are you familiar with DataGuard? Could I say that in my environment we don't use DataGuard, but we do use an offsite vendor to store backups? Would that be a sufficient answer or no?
No, that's not a good answer, because why? DataGuard has a whole different thing going on with it. So DataGuard, you're using it for high availability and disaster recovery, right? High availability is the keyword. So for DataGuard, remember, if you have your backup somewhere, if something happens, you have to go get it and then start doing a recovery, right? But when you have your standby databases in a DataGuard environment, if something happens now, if Maryland crashes and you lose your data center and everything, there's going to be a switch over to the standby, and the standby will become the primary, right? But if you have backups with a vendor, it doesn't do that. If you have backups with a vendor, if your primary crashes with a tornado or something else, then you have to go to that vendor, you have to get your backup from that vendor and then start doing a recovery. That will take a long time. But your standby, you simply do, if it's automatically, it's going to do a failover if you have automatic failover. So there are two different things. DataGuard helps for high availability and disaster recovery. The backups will help, but those two things act differently. So you cannot replace one with another. You need both.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So why would company opt for other forms of recovery as against having what do we call it? A DataGuard? Why would they want to give that to an offsite vendor to store the backups?
So having your backups is totally different from DataGuard. Like I said, we have to do our backups. You actually have to back up even your standby database. So I don't want you guys, so just separate backups and DataGuard. Separate the two. They are totally different things. In my current environment, we don't have DataGuard. and we do backups. When I worked at the Navy, we had data guard and we had backup, we had an offline vendor.
They serve two different purposes. I get it.
It all depends on the environment, but those things are not related. I don't want you guys to start thinking that if you have backups, then you don't need data guard. Because if something happens and primary crashes, it's going to be a whole lot of days for you to recover your database from using those backups. But then you still keep it just for availability, just so that if something happens, you can always get that. But data guard does something totally different. A lot of people now even use the cloud as well. So some people could have their data centers and they are still using traditional data centers, but then they have their offsite vendor as AWS, storing their backups in the cloud. Some companies do that as well. Data guard is totally different. A lot of environments that I've worked in, they really don't have data guard. I'm not sure why, but you don't see the need, and I don't try to bring that up.
So baby, when you said they store your backups, is it just the most recent one and then they erase the obsolete for the third-party vendors that maintain backups?
What's your question?
Are they just storing every backup that, even the ones they become obsolete, but they still have them, or are they erasing them? How do they? I guess I'm trying to find out. When you say backups, is it just the most recent backup?
Okay, so they basically just store all our backups. We don't know, like we don't get into detail of what exactly they have and what they don't have, but they just have everything in a database.
Okay.
Yeah, they have like all changes. Not just the changes, but all blocks. Means at every point in time they have everything. They have all a database, so we can literally use what they have to recover our systems if we lost it. Especially right now, people take that very seriously. They make sure they have their offsite vendors because a lot of companies are facing ransomware attacks. So if you had your backups, with an offsite vendor and there was a ransomware attack, you don't have to pay any ransom to the attacker, right? So because when the attacker gets into your database, what they'll do is they'll put in a malware that will encrypt everything. So the attacker gets into your system, then encrypts everything, and you guys cannot access any data. And they'll ask a whole lot of money. And they always want you to pay via Bitcoin because they know you can't trace them if you're paying them through Bitcoin. And when that happens, companies will panic because you need your data. But if you had a great backup strategy, you had your data with a reliable vendor, you can just say, you can just abandon that system. You abandon that system to the attacker and not pay him any money. Just get your offsite backups and create your system from scratch. So that should be it. Next week we'll go over control file and data file recovery. So everyone should have done that in their study group. I don't mind if you do it and crash your database. You can always import another one. It's okay to crash. When you crash, you get to learn, so you don't crash a real life database. So practice that, and so practice the control file and data file recovery. And you also want to read up from Alapati about complete and incomplete recovery, or you want to read up about point in time recovery. And we have Aroma recipe. You can always go in there as well to get two recovery scenarios that you can always use in an interview. But you already have if you have your data file and you have a table and you have a control file, I think those three should be good. And we already have those. So let's see, some people have been very quiet. Carol, is she there? Christian has not been quiet. So Christina's Edwin, I've not heard from you today.
I'm still at work, so it's kind of like hard to talk. Because I have people around me, so I'm kind of like forced to be quiet.
Okay, all right. Who else? Hussein did say something. Hussein? Is Hussein there? Some people sleeping in class. JD2 disappeared today. Adele, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Okay. So
Yeah.
I expect you to know the difference between a differential and cumulative backup by next week.
Okay.
Also, you tell us about those two backups next week.
Okay.
All right, Samuel, you good?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. So guys, any questions before we call it a day?
Sylvia, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, I got asked how will I recover my database when I don't have my backups? And I was wondering if I could use the database hang example, but then it would say I needed to be logged in to go in and increase my FRA or something. So I was wondering, like, how can I recover my database? Like, if the question actually was, if your database was down and you did not have any backups to recover from, how would you get the database? How would you recover it?
You cannot recover a database if you don't have backups. You cannot recover. So what are you going to recover from? If you have archive logs, you can use the archive logs. But I'm not sure what you wanted. But you can always use your archive logs to recover as well if your database is running in archive log mode.
Okay. All right, I see. Thank you.
You're welcome, but that should not be a good question. Next time you should tell them that you've never even thought about that because it's not acceptable. That to you always make sure you have a perfect backup strategy, and you do test your backups every so often. You do run simulations, backup and recovery simulations, just so that you're prepared in the event of a disaster. So don't let them ask you crazy questions like that, because there's nobody who tries to run their database and not back it up unless they don't know what they are doing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Some people like to ask some really ridiculous questions. just to see if you know what you're doing.
Right. Okay.
But you can always use your archive logs.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Antonia is back.
That's Antonia. Yes, Antonia is alive.
Okay, Antonia is back. I'm hoping that Antonia is back this time to get picked up.
It looks like it. The COVID opened up Antonia's eyes.
Good. So any other questions? Christina Barnabas? I know Fozia is a pro. Can ask her if she has any questions.
Yeah, I got a question. So I know that a cumulative backup is better than a differential, right? Because it helps to save one space, right?
No, cumulative takes more space.
Cumulative takes more space.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just remember for cumulative, every time you're backing up all changes from your last level 0. So it means you're backing up more stuff.
Gotcha. The differential only backs up the changes from the last backup from the previous day.
Yes.
Gotcha. Because that's what was confusing me, because I was about to ask you why in our backup strategy then do we say for our production databases we do a level 0 on Sunday and a level 1 differential backup Monday through Saturday. But I get it now. Because that the differential why is that? I mean, what would you say to why we have that in that script? Would that be because differential saves on space?
Yeah, you can. That can be a reason. And you guys have resources in your environment, so you pick that for your strategy because it saves up space.
Can I give an analogy?
Yes, go ahead, Boki.
Okay, so think about it like if you were an Uber driver and you had to go pick up people from a party and you only have a car that can fit 6 people maybe at the most, and you have 10 people. Now, it depends. If you wanted to make a decision, you can either say, okay, I'm gonna pick up 5 and then come back for the other 5. Or you can say, well, I want to make as much money as I can and say, well, I'm just going to come each time. But it will have to be your decision to decide, okay, how many times. But then you're putting